Chapter 1. The hidden game behind every transaction. You walk into a store. You see two watches. Both tell the time. One costs $80, the other $8,000. Which one is the better deal? Most people will say the cheaper one, but someone still buys the $8,000 watch. Why? Because money follows perception, not production. The real game is not about cost. It's about what people think they're paying for. That's the game of asymmetric information. Here's how it works. You know something the other person doesn't, or they know something you don't. That gap is where all the profit lives. Ever bought a used car? The seller knows how hard it's been driven. You don't, so you guess. Maybe you lowball. Maybe they oversell. This guessing game is everywhere. When a company puts a product on a shelf, they control how much you see, know, and believe. You're not just buying a thing, you're buying a story. That $8,000 watch wasn't just a timepiece, it was a signal, a symbol. You didn't just buy gears and glass. You bought a feeling, a reputation, a silent message that says, I've made it. This is the power of asymmetric information, and companies use it everywhere. High-end brands don't advertise the cost to make the item. They advertise a lifestyle. They show you yachts, exotic vacations, happy couples and spotless kitchens. It's not about features, it's about feelings. Now let's flip the script. Imagine you run a small clothing brand. You spend $10 to make a shirt. You want to sell it for $25. That gives you a $15 profit. But you're afraid that sounds greedy, so you lower the price to $18. You barely break even. Meanwhile, a luxury brand sells a similar shirt for $300, and people line up for it. Why? Because they don't see the shirt. They see the story behind it. When your product looks cheap, people treat it that way. When it looks premium, they treat it with respect. Perception shapes value. Value shapes. If you understand that, you stop playing defense. You stop apologizing for charging what you're worth. Think about bottled water. In your house, it's basically free. At a gas station, it's $2. At a concert, it's $8. At an airport, $10. The water didn't change. The price did. Because of context. Because of who controls the information and the urgency. This is why business isn't just about making things. It's about framing things. Here's another example. You're selling your old iPhone. It's in great condition, but buyers keep lowballing you. So you take a different approach. You clean it, take great photos, include the original box, add a short description. Pristine condition, always kept in a case. Battery health 95%. Suddenly, people offer more. Nothing changed about the phone. You just closed the information gap. That's asymmetric information in reverse. You use transparency to raise perceived value. This works in any market. Online courses, consulting. People judge what they think they're getting, not just what they're actually getting. So what's the takeaway? You don't need to manipulate, you just need to understand what others don't. Then highlight it, present it clearly, and charge with confidence. On the passive path, this is one of the first principles of wealth. Money flows to where confidence and clarity live, not to where things are simply cheaper. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you don't package it right, you won't be paid for it. Next time you're selling something, remember this. People don't just pay for what you do. They pay for what they believe about what you do. Ready to learn how the world's richest people use this exact concept? Chapter 2. Why working hard often means earning less. You work 40 hours a week. You follow every rule. You show up early, stay late, never complain. Still, you struggle to save money. Meanwhile, your boss takes long lunches, goes on vacation, and buys a new car. You made the money. They kept most of it. This is not a bug. It's the design. Working harder doesn't guarantee more wealth. Understanding leverage does. Let's break it down. If you work for a salary, you trade time for money. That trade has a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day. So even if you double your skills, your income might not follow. You're still locked into a structure built by someone else. Your boss doesn't pay you based on your value. They pay you based on what they can keep after paying you. Think about it like this. You bring in $100,000 worth of value. You get paid $60,000. Your boss keeps the rest. You're grateful. They're richer. The people who create the game are rarely the ones playing it on the ground. Let's look at a historical example. In the early 1800s, Nathan Rothschild pulled off one of the most famous financial plays in history. During the Battle of Waterloo, he received word before anyone else that Britain had won. He used private couriers and fast ships to get that news ahead of the government. Then he went to the market and started selling British bonds. People saw this and panicked. They assumed Britain had lost. Prices crashed, he bought everything at the bottom. When the real news broke, prices soared. He walked away with millions. He didn't fight the war. He didn't lead the troops. He just got the news first. That's not luck, that's leverage. In the modern world, leverage looks different. It's knowing the loophole in a tax code. It's owning the platform, not working on it. It's having 100 people work 1 hour each. If you want to escape the cycle of endless work, you need to think differently. Ask yourself, who owns your time? Who sets your limits? Who decides how much your output is worth? If the answer isn't you, then your freedom is rented. That's why the wealthiest people don't just work. They build, they own, they delegate. They don't ask, how much will I get paid for this hour? They ask, how can I make money even when I'm not working? This is the heart of passive income. Not because it's effortless, but because it's scalable. Let's bring it closer to home. In most North American cities, the average salary can barely keep up with the cost of living, housing, healthcare, food, gas. Meanwhile, asset owners, people with real estate, stocks, and intellectual property get richer every year. Why? Because they own things that work while they sleep. You can't outwork a system that's designed to keep you on a treadmill, but you can opt out. Start a digital product, an investment account. Do something today that pays you tomorrow. Every dollar you make without showing up is a vote for your freedom. On the passive path, we don't chase busy. We chase leverage. You don't need to be born rich. You need to stop playing a game where you have no seat at the table. And once you learn to create leverage, the game shifts. You're no longer paid by the hour. You're paid by the impact. You're paid by what you own. You're paid by how well you've structured the system. Want to learn how even small players use this? Chapter 3, The Power of Setup. How the rich make you chase the wrong things. A man walks into a wealthy home. He notices a cat drinking from a small bowl in the corner. The bowl looks ancient, delicate, priceless. The man is a collector. He knows that bowl is worth a fortune, but he plays it cool. He says, "Your cat is lovely. Would you sell it?" The owner replies, "Sure, but she's expensive." They settle on a price. As the man picks up the cat, he adds, "She seems to love that bowl. Mind throwing it in?" The owner smiles. "Oh, that bowl? That's actually a rare antique. I've sold 5 cats with it already. This is the game." While you're focused on the cat, someone else is setting the price on the bowl. They know what matters. You don't, so they win. This isn't a trick, it's a setup, and it happens every day. Think about limited edition sneakers. They're just shoes. But because someone said they're rare, you believe they matter. It's not the product, it's the story. That story is built with intention, and the setup is everything. This is why big brands spend millions on packaging, not just production. The box, the lighting, the ad, the influencer wearing it. None of that is accidental. It's the modern version of the cat and the bowl. Let's look at real estate. A home staged with furniture sells faster and for more. Why? Because buyers imagine themselves living there, even though the furniture isn't part of the sale. Again, it's the setup. Think about dating apps. Photos taken with better lighting and backgrounds get more matches, not because the person changed, but because the setup changed. Now look at your own work, your product, your service, your resume, your business. Is the value visible, or are you just showing the cat? The people who win in business understand this. They create the frame before they present the picture. They don't just say, "Here's what I have." They say, "Here's why it matters to you." There's a reason high-end restaurants plate food with precision. It doesn't change the taste. It changes how you value the experience. That's why some people can charge $5 for coffee and others charge $50 for wine, because the setup makes you feel something, and feelings control spending. This is not manipulation, it's presentation, and it separates amateurs from professionals. If you want to raise your income, start by raising your perceived value. If you want to charge more, start by telling a better story. Here's the hard truth. People don't always choose the best option. They choose the one that looks best at a glance, the one that feels safe, the one that seems credible. So make it easy. Design your message, shape your product, highlight what matters, remove distractions. Because the person who frames the offer controls the outcome. This is how freelancers turn into consultants. This is how a regular product becomes a household name. On the passive path, We call this owning the narrative. And it's one of the most profitable skills you can learn. You don't need more credentials. You need clearer positioning. You don't need to shout louder. You need to speak with precision. Ready to find out how this same principle explains why the cheapest options off? Chapter 4, The Tourist Trap. How Hidden Costs Keep You Poor. A travel agency offers a tour for $200. It includes flights, hotels, meals, and a guide. Sounds like a great deal. You sign up. Halfway through the trip, things change. The guide pushes you to buy souvenirs, jewelry, skincare, supplements. Everything suddenly costs extra. What just happened? You were sold the dream at a discount, but the real profit comes from what happens after you arrive. This is the trap, and it's built on asymmetric information. They know what's coming. You don't. So they make the offer look cheap. Then they fill the gap with upsells. This is called moral hazard, when one side hides the risk because the other side can't see it. It happens in more than just travel. Used car dealerships often do the same. They sell you a car at a low price, but then they push extras. Extended warranties, paint protection, high-interest financing. The low price hooks you. The extra, but you're paying more. Same with home services. A plumber quotes $50 to check your sink. Once inside, he finds 5 other problems. The bill becomes $500. Not because you needed more work, but because he had the advantage of knowledge. When one party knows more than the other, they can shift the price, the risk, and the outcome. This is how cheap becomes expensive. Online shopping is no different. Free shipping, but only if you spend more. Flash deals, but they expire in 15 minutes. You rush, you overspend. Again, the price isn't the problem. The hidden cost is. You end up buying what you didn't plan to, because you didn't have the full picture. Now look at how this plays out in insurance. You buy the cheapest plan, but when you need it, the coverage is thin. Deductibles are high. Exclusions everywhere. It looked cheap. It cost more in the end. This is reverse selection. Because good options can't compete on price when buyers don't see the full value, it pushes honest players out of the market, and the whole system becomes a race to the bottom. It's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. Think about food delivery apps. They offer $0 delivery fees, but add hidden service charges, higher menu prices, small tips expected. Your $10 meal becomes $22. The extra money didn't go to the chef, it went to the system built to disguise the real cost. So what's the fix? Transparency, reputation, trust. Smart platforms use verified reviews, price breakdowns, clear policies. They win because they reduce the information gap. That's where real profit lives long term. Build trust, expose value, remove surprises. When people feel informed, they spend more and feel better doing it. And when you buy, stop assuming cheaper means smarter. Ask what's missing. Ask what they're not telling you. Because avoiding them is one of the fastest ways to build wealth. Saving money is good, but saving clarity is better. You can always make more money, but lost trust is hard to recover. Now let's talk about how to flip this to your advantage. How you can be the person. Chapter 5, Turning the Tables. How to use information gaps to build wealth. You're in a crowded room. A few people are talking about a new business idea. It sounds too good to be true. They're excited. You're skeptical. But they know something you don't. So you ask questions. You listen. You learn. And suddenly, you see the opportunity. Not because it's magic, but because you now know what's missing. This is the key to using asymmetric information for wealth building. It's not about deception. It's about recognizing what's being left out of the conversation. Here's how it works. Let's say you want to sell an online course. You know that people need knowledge, but they don't just want any knowledge. They want it framed in a way that makes sense to them. They want the missing piece. When you present your course, you don't just talk about the content, you talk about what it will solve. You show them how it will. You're not just selling information, you're selling the transformation that comes with it. Think about the last time you hired someone. What were you really paying for? Were you paying for skills? Or were you paying for the comfort of knowing that person had the right answers before you did? The same is true for business. Customers don't just buy what you offer. They buy the promise of something better. This is how small players punch above their weight. It's about packaging what you know in a way that solves a real problem, and presenting it when the need is the greatest. You see this in real estate too. An experienced agent will tell you everything about a house. The price is just one piece of the puzzle. But the agent knows what you'll care about. The schools, the neighborhood, the hidden costs. They frame the deal so it feels right, so it feels like something you need to take action on. The richest people understand that you can do this in any market. Digital marketing, investing, even hiring the right talent. You find the problem, you frame the solution, you show the value, and you charge what it's worth. Not just what others are paying. You create leverage by positioning yourself as the solution to the problem they didn't know existed. It's like being the one who knows the restaurant is about to have a flash sale while everyone else is still waiting for a table. So how do you get started? Start by building your network. Not just to get information, but to share what you know. Find the people who need what you offer. Then find the gaps in their knowledge. Help them fill those gaps. It's not about being the expert in everything. It's about owning the space where you can offer the most value. On the passive path, this is the foundation of entrepreneurship. It's how the richest people keep winning. They never stop looking for the gaps. They never stop. You do not sit have to be an insider to play the game. You just need to understand the rules and how to use information to your advantage. Ready to learn how to leverage this? Chapter 6, the mindset shift. Most people never make you want to build wealth. You study strategies, you chase trends, you follow advice. But still, nothing changes. Because the biggest shift isn't tactical, it's mental. The people who build lasting wealth think differently. They ask better questions, they play longer games, they focus on control, not comfort. Here's what they do differently. They don't see money as the goal. They see it as a tool to buy time, a tool to buy freedom, a tool to buy options. They don't seek permission. They create value. They make moves while others wait. They read books, not because they want to sound smart, but because each book gives them a shortcut, a window into someone else's playbook. They invest in learning, because the more they know, the less they guess, and guessing is expensive. Think about this. The average millionaire reads dozens of books a year. Most people stop reading after school. Reading one good book 10 times is better than reading 10 books once. Repetition builds understanding. Understanding builds confidence. Confidence leads to action. Wealthy people also avoid drama. They avoid distractions. They focus. They say no to what doesn't matter, so they can say yes to what moves the needle. They don't compare themselves to others. They compare themselves to their goals. They don't rely on luck. They rely on systems. They don't get rich by accident. They get rich by design. If you want to change your life, start with your inputs. What you read, who you listen to, where you spend your time. Cut out noise, add signal. That's why so many people stay poor. They chase noise, they follow crowds, they trust strangers over data, and they wait for someone to rescue them. But no one's coming. The shift happens when you stop outsourcing your future, when you take responsibility, when you say, "This is my game." That's when everything starts to change. You don't need to be born into wealth. You need to stop thinking like someone who's trying to survive. Survival thinking asks, how can I make it through the week? Ownership thinking asks, how can I build something that lasts for decades? On the passive path, we believe mindset isn't just important, it's everything. Without it, every tactic falls apart. With it, even simple strategies work. So here's what to do now. Pick one thing you've learned today. Apply it. Talk about it. Teach it to someone else. That's how you make it real. And if this video opened your eyes even a little, you already know what comes next. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Share it with someone who's ready to stop being a pawn and start becoming a player, because the next move is yours. And on this, before you go, here's the truth. Wealth doesn't come from hustle alone. It comes from clarity, from understanding the hidden rules, from seeing what others miss and acting on it. Today, you've learned how asymmetric information shapes everything. From the price of a watch to the size of a fortune. From tourist traps to trillion-dollar families. From guessing to building wealth with intention. But knowledge only works when you use it. So take what you've learned, apply it to your next decision. Ask better questions. Look deeper. Think longer term. And if this video gave you even one insight worth remembering, show some love. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and let us know what hit you hardest. And share this with someone you care about. Someone who deserves to stop losing at a game they didn't know they were playing. Good luck on your journey. You're doing better than you think. Feel free to explore other videos on the channel. They're all